Hey, this is Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. Today's show is brought to you by UppercutChops.com. Check out their tasty selection of all-natural, dry-aged USDA, prime Angus, and Wagyu steaks and chops. Wait till you taste their best-in-class New York steaks, the filet mignon, and of course, the king of all those gigantic cowboy cut and tomahawk cut ribeyes. Hell, what do you try that short rib of beef? Boy, that's something special, too. Check them out at UppercutChops.com. That's UppercutChops.com. Or give them a call. Find out what's for dinner. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100 for UppercutChops.com. All right, a big welcome in to everybody watching on television, everybody listening in on the radio, everybody streaming on Pick Your Favorite Streamer. And, of course, even our friends that are on Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Check that out, folks. Chicago Food Favorites, a fun group. Talk about your favorite foods, favorite restaurants, favorite recipes. Make some friends. Have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. Also, our friends over at Vacation Buddies want to give you a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas or Orlando, Florida, or Branson, Missouri, if you can answer a very simple trivia question. And here it is. Which of these three are the tallest structures in Las Vegas? Is it A, the Eiffel Tower at the Paris Hotel and Casino, B, the Fontainebleau Hotel and Casino, or C, the Stratosphere Tower at the Strat? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with the station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida, if you know the answer to that very simple trivia question. 888-576-5777. Call now. All right. One of my favorite characters on television, he's not a character, he's a person, but I find him as being loaded with character, is Charles Barkley. This guy just makes me laugh. I think he's really good for TV. I think he's good for whatever show he's on. He just has so much personality. Of course, everybody down there in Auburn, Alabama would agree with that too. Mr. War Eagle himself. So the bigger question is, who would make up a story like that? Basketball Network says the Philadelphia 76ers equipment manager confirms that Charles Barkley would take a shower, yes, with his jersey on. Okay, there's a reason for it. It's not just because he wants to be a different person. And this is, as the story goes, this is pretty good stuff. And it's a very good story, too, if you look at it in the long run. When Charles Barkley recently was a guest on a particular speaker series at a particular school, he was surprised by a visit from the Philadelphia 76ers employee Alan Lumpkin. Now, Lumpkin worked for decades with the organization and went from ball boy to executive director of team logistics upon retirement. Now, Lumpkin wasn't brought to the event to exchange pleasantries with Barkley, nothing like that. He was there to confirm whether Barkley's crazy story about taking showers with his Sixers jersey on was true or not. As a matter of fact, Charles Barkley had said before Lumpkin took the mic First of all, quote, first of all, it's 100% true. Like my first or 4 or 5 years, we flew commercial. And you had to wash your jersey. You're flying the next morning, so after the game, well, first of all, you went out and find something to eat. You get in the shower, on your jersey, soap it down, and then just find a place to get it dry because you're flying, close quote. Now, of course, players had to be up early the next day because they flew commercial. Now, as Charles Barkley narrated, NBA teams flew commercial back in the day due to the high charter cost. But after the Detroit Pistons purchased a BAC 111 plane, dubbed Roundball 1, in 1987 and started flying private, other teams followed. But before that, Barkley said players had a dilemma whether they had back-to-back games because they had to fly out the next city early in the morning. So because of that, Charles said he used to shower with his jersey on and then let the uniform dry out at the hotel afterwards so it'd be ready for packing when they left early the next day. That seems like a pretty sensible thing to me. Crazy as it sounds, though, considering today's NBA stars have extra uniforms, hotel services, fly on team planes, back then, the struggle was real, and Lumpkin confirmed Chuck's story to be 100% true. As a matter of fact, Barkley told the man he affectionately called Lumpy, quote, "They thought I was lying. Who would make up a story like that?" Close quote. Now, Chuck also suffered stiff arms sometimes while flying commercial. However, showering with his jersey on wasn't the only byproduct of NBA players flying commercial back in the day. According to Chuck, there were also several instances during his early days when he suffered a stiff arm because while on the flight, possibly some person slept, they fell asleep on him, leaning on his shoulder, and he didn't want to disturb them. As a matter of fact, he had said, quote, "There was a couple times when I would get to a city and I couldn't move my arm, and our trainers were like, 'Dude, what happened to your arm? Did you get hurt in last night's game?' I was like, 'No, man. I had this old lady lay on me and I didn't want to be an a-hole. And this old sweet lady is leaning on my shoulder for 3 hours. And because I was actually raised to respect my elders, but man, sometimes I get to the next city and I can't even lift my damn arm," close quote. Now that's a really cool thing. Now look, today, not only NBA teams own airplanes, but many of them fly private with those who don't charter flights. And that's an advantage for today's stars, especially if they have back-to-back games. Just imagine them going through what Charles talked about. Now think about that, folks. Now we're talking not too terribly long ago. Guys like Charles Barkley, Larry Bird, Magic Johnson, Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Michael Jordan, and on. Back in the day, they had to fly commercial. They didn't necessarily have what these players have today. And guess what? They played physical brand of defense. They actually played a game that was not and one, foul, call foul on everything. They played through it. Think back when Detroit played, and we're going to get into Detroit and Charles Barkley and others, or Larry Bird nonetheless in the next segment. But my point is, think back to when they were playing these physical games in the 70s, 80s, 60s, 70s, 80s, whatever. And you say, well, wait a minute. These guys didn't fly commercial, or they flew commercial. They didn't have private planes. They didn't have all the amenities that the current players do today. Not only that, they didn't make the money. Not that kind of money. I mean, that's a crazy kind of money. And then now in today's time, they have load management. So the physical game, they had to wash their own uniforms or whatever it was. They had to figure it out. It was a very different league. And people say, well, those guys, they were good, but today's players are great. No. If you give those guys all the amenities that they have in today's game, can you imagine how many points per game Michael Jordan would have scored? How many assists John Stockton would have had in today's time when he didn't have to do all that stuff he did back in the day? What about Magic Johnson? Irvin Magic Johnson. What a phenomenal player. What about Larry Bird? Think about the times he scored 50, 60 points or whatnot. I mean, look, these guys, what about Lou Alcindor? But you can call him Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And on we go. all these great players, they had a whole different set of metrics to deal with. They didn't have the plush everything that today's players have. And so the story about Charles Barkley showering with his jersey on, it's a good story because it's one of those don't forget where you came from kind of things. And Chuck's always a big star when he goes back to Auburn, back to the old uniform, back to the old school. And guess what? He's from Alabama, and he's a local guy and just happened to be a great athlete that come out of Auburn University. And, of course, we like to mention them because why? We're on WAUD right there in Auburn, Alabama. We're on at 7 p.m. Monday through Friday, home of the Atlanta Braves. But, folks, listen, that is a very different time with a very different set of rules and respect. Just like Chuck said, he was brought up to respect his elders. Now, how much of that do we see today? I'm not saying that the players today disrespect their elders. But what I'm saying is the players today appear more entitled, more this, more that, because they make more money as if they're better. I don't know if they're any better. The game was certainly different. It was more physical back in the day. But I guess my big question is, what would today's players have done back in the day, and what would players back in the 60s, 70s, 80s, even the early 90s have done back in those times if they were brought to today's game? Different story, different time, folks. Back here with more NBA chaos from the day, way back in the day, in the time machine. Lots more to come. Don't go anywhere.
Hey, bud, what's your problem?
Attention business owners, you and your customers are listening to this right now. Face it, every business needs customers, even yours. The Sports Circus is a primetime nationally syndicated program that's carried on ABC, NBC, CNBC, and Westwood One News affiliates, plus CBS, Fox, and NBC sports affiliates across North America with coverage from Hawaii to New York. Also, the Sports Circus is available to the 180 million subscribers on iHeartRadio, and the Sports Circus gets about 4 million website visitors per month, which could click through your website and bring sales. The Sports Circus provides great content featuring celebrity guests from sports and entertainment to our audience every weekday, which your company could greatly benefit from by increasing your visibility, foot traffic, eyeballs to your website, and calls from potential customers. Call us right now at
714-948-0100. Again, 714-948-0100.
Or email us at info@thesportscircus.com. That's info@thesportscircus.com. Drive your sales today by advertising with the Sports Circus.
Do you know someone with a drug or alcohol problem? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything. Stop the drug and alcohol nightmare. Are drug and alcohol problems hitting you too close to home? Get help right now. Insurance may cover everything.
800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. 800-831-1560. That's 800-831-1560.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UppercutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UppercutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UppercutChops.com delivers all natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at uppercutchops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at uppercutchops.com.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm Roy Firestone. Now it's time to throw it back to Sal.
Thank you, Roy, and welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP Television. This segment brought to you in part by our friends over at the College of Southern Nevada Athletics. Check them out at csncoyotes.com for upcoming games and events. That's the College of Southern Nevada Athletics, csncoyotes.com. Check them out, folks. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports affiliates from coast to coast. Everybody else watching on Cox, Comcast, Spectrum, Frontier, Oceanic, Time Warner, Spectral, Wild, Charter, and independent cable affiliates. Thanks for joining us there. Everybody listening in on WAUD over in Auburn, Alabama, from Columbus, Georgia to over to Montgomery, Alabama. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for waking up with us over in Atlanta on WDJY 99.1 FM. All the way out to the West Coast. Those driving between LA and Vegas listening in on Highway Country Radio 101.5 FM and 107.3 FM. Home of the Raiders and Golden Knights. Thanks for joining us there. All the way out to our friends in Honolulu, CBS Sports 1500 KHKA. That's home of the Yankees and 49ers and Alabama Crimson Tide. Of course, welcome in there. Plus everybody else on all streaming platforms. By the way, in case you're just tuning in the last segment, we mentioned that Vacation Buddies was giving away a couple of nights in Las Vegas, Orlando, Florida, or in Branson, Missouri, if you know the answer to a very simple trivia question. If you're just tuning in, we're going to repeat it real quick here for you. Which of these is the tallest structure in Las Vegas? Is it A, the Paris Eiffel Tower, Paris Hotel and Casino Eiffel Tower, B, the Fontainebleau Hotel and Casino, or C, the Stratosphere Tower at the Strat? If you know the answer, call 888-576-5777, 888-576-5777. And remember, Vacation Buddies is not affiliated with this station, but they want to give you a couple of nights right here in Las Vegas, Branson, Missouri, or Orlando, Florida, if you know the answer to that simple trivia question. If so, call now, 888-576-5777. All right. We're back here with, listen, in the last segment, we're going to stick with basketball. In the last segment, they had a really good story, I thought, with Charles Barkley on showering with his jersey on, what that was all about. It was pretty cool because, remember, back in the day, well, let's face it, back-to-back games, the players didn't fly commercial. They had to wash their own jerseys, et cetera, and so forth. And so, look, they didn't have extra jerseys. They didn't have private planes and all that other fun stuff. So now, sticking with the idea of the back-in-the-day basketball, how about a little bit between John Sally and Larry Bird? I mean, look, Larry Bird would absolutely, seemingly humiliate John Sally on the court when he was playing with the Detroit Pistons. And basically, Detroit had to sub him out, end of day. So remember, Larry Bird, just a superstar. So he was never just an elite scorer, but a master trash talker and psychological warfare guy. Just one of those guys. And let's face it, I mean, beyond the obvious, beyond putting game-high points up on the board, Larry Legend thrived on disturbing and distributing at the same time. He was disturbing the other team psychologically, but he would distribute the ball like one you'd almost never see. So think about distributing defenders as well, getting into their heads, distributing them back to the bench. So he was doing everything, getting into their heads, finding ways to score on them. And he was just, well, there was a mind and a word that rhymes with truck. He was one of those guys. And John Sally, who was, unfortunately, this guy was often left with dealing. They're somehow trying to contain Larry Bird whenever the Celtics played the Pistons. He learned his lesson firsthand. On one particular occasion, he could not contain his laughter at how Bird repeatedly warned him to get more help in defending before it gets too late. However, John Sally refusing to do so. The three-time MVP unleashed such a ferocious scoring breath on the Pistons coaching staff, mind you. They were actually forced to pull Sally out of the game. That's right. It just happens that way sometimes. And so think about this. How about getting trash talked by Larry Bird? During 34 head-to-head matchups, Larry Bird averages showed how continuously he established superiority over Detroit's forward, averaging 22.7 per game, 9 rebounds, 6.5 assists. Naturally, this shows that despite the Pistons and Sally in particular trying to really overpower this guy with physical warfare and all this other crap, that kind of physical style just didn't work. And Larry Bird was absolutely unstoppable and found ways to make meaningful impact one way or another. It was a dumpster fire for Detroit whenever they had to face him. In fact, John Sally once reflected on those years and admitted how daunting it was to even enter the league during a time when Bird was at the height of his power. Now, in case you don't know, I remember this. When John Sally came out, he was 27 years of age, came out of Georgia Tech. I don't know what his story was, but I remember he came into the league at 27. And boy, he made an instant impact, of course, but then again, he was already 5 years older than the college players that he was playing against anyway, because back then players actually graduated or close to it. So you have to look at it that way. But looking at how that whole thing took place with Sally going into the league as really a ready-to-win guy. He really was. And you have to think about, as he reflected on those years, on how he had such a hard time with Larry Bird at the height of his powers. Look, Larry Bird was a 3-time champion. He was accustomed to teams doubling him left, right, and center. And when he realized that the Pistons had only assigned John Sally to guard him, he just kind of warned him. He said, well, look, you're going to have to get some help, buddy. But when John continued to stick to his ways, Larry dominated him so effortlessly, possession after possession, that the Pistons coach was compelled to replace John Sally with Dennis Rodman, leaving Larry Bird to laugh off at how casually some opposing defenders treat him. As a matter of fact, he has said to John, he goes, Sal, you better ask for help. He said, you better ask for help, close quote. Sally said about the worst thing that Bird said to him during his interview, and he had said, quote, y'all not double teaming me. I said, nah, it's just you and me. He said, Sal, you better ask for help. I'm telling you, bro, you better ask for help. He scored 3 times in a row. I got 2 quick fouls. Bring Dennis in on the beep. He was like, I told you, you better ask for help, close quote. So that was a series of quotes that came from John Sally regarding him and what Larry Bird had said. But, I mean, look, Larry Bird was just unstoppable. In the grand scheme of things, look, his psychological warfare was one issue. And it wasn't just limited to John Sally. I mean, look, no moment really spells it out or illustrates it in any kind of combination of flair and dominance better than his scoring 60 points in a game against the Atlanta Hawks in 1985. Now, throughout the game, Bird continuously trash-talked his opponents, letting them know exactly how he planned to score before doing the exact thing each time. That's funny stuff. And so what made it even funnier and more, I guess, unforgettable was the reaction from the Atlanta Hawks bench, which couldn't help but cheer at the display of skill unfolding before their eyes, even though it came at their expense. It didn't matter, because when you're watching greatness, you're watching greatness. It is what it is. And now, think about this. Few players in NBA history really combined that kind of swag, that kind of grit, and execution the way that Larry Bird did. Very few. You could probably count them on a hand or two. And we're talking historically. Now, his words cut as deep as his jump shot, and his dominance forced even the toughest defenders to second guess themselves. And that's why when people talk about Larry Bird's legacy, it's not just the numbers. It's the fear, the respect, and the unforgettable way that he proved it every night, seemingly in and out. Every word as well. I mean, the guy just did it. And so what are you going to take away from Larry Bird? I'll tell you what, you're not going to take much away from him, because Larry was one of those guys that it didn't matter what you threw at him. Kind of like when Jordan had the flu. Jordan's out there, 104-degree temperature. He's still out there scoring 30-plus, blah, 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 and winning and winning and winning. Some guys just have a will to win that it doesn't matter what stands in front of them. They just don't know any other way to do it. And it's all about your mentality. Some people say, well, you got to learn to be a good loser. I'll tell you what, folks, like it or not, if you learn to be a good loser, you're going to learn to lose. And some guys don't want to lose. I'm one of those guys. I don't like losing, period. Do not. I just don't like anything about it. To me, it is the sign of failure. Doesn't matter whether it was you, the team, the system, whatever it was. End of day, you didn't win. And I don't care what the excuses are. If you didn't win, you didn't win. And you have to live with that. And especially think about it if it's in a championship setting. If you're not winning, guess what? You're not getting paid. And if you're not getting paid, that means you're not playing as much. Think about that. There's a whole financial dynamic to it. The sponsors aren't coming so quickly. And you're not making as much. Your team isn't making as much. The TV contracts aren't worth as much. The rev from the jersey sales is down. The memorabilia, everything else, everything is down. And in today's sports, money is everything. Why? Because winning is absolutely everything. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come. I'm going to continue with basketball. Lots more to come, folks.
If I was your mother and you had a drug problem, I'd grab you by the ear and make you call and get help. You can be in treatment tomorrow and start to get clean in 7 days. Follow Mom's advice and call the Detox and Treatment Helpline now. Write this number down.
800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. 800-814-8628. That's 800-814-8628.
Are you or someone you love struggling with an addiction to drugs or alcohol and want to be set free from the chains of addiction? Then call Addiction Helpline America right now to get the help you need. From drug and alcohol addiction to dual diagnosis treatment, we provide a confidential helpline to help people like you get sober and live happy, substance-free lives.
Treatment helped me get my life back. I was so addicted, the only person I could focus on was myself and what I needed. I hit rock bottom and lost everything. Through treatment, I was able to overcome those demons and focus on my family again.
I used until I overdosed and almost died. That was the end of the road for me. After seeking treatment, I now have hope. I learned skills that help me deal with life on life's terms.
800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. 800-426-4994. That's 800-426-4994.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. BEEPIN autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Investors, keep listening to learn how to get your free gold report. A currency crisis is upon us. The U.S. dollar has been the world's reserve currency for over 50 years, but that is changing. It's time to protect your retirement. Decades of reckless borrowing and spending have critically weakened the dollar. The U.S. has become the world's biggest debtor with over $35 trillion in debt. Plus, the dollar's become weaponized. Countries are dumping it. Investors who wait until it's too late could lose big. There is one safe haven: gold. Diversify your portfolio with a physical asset they can't take away. Call the Reagan Gold Group right now and ask for your free gold guide. Here's our number:
800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. 800-876-7041. That's 800-876-7041.
Hey everyone, Dave Jackson here, ESPN rules analyst on ESPN Hockey, and you're listening to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out thesportscircus.com for upcoming guests, our prior guests, recorded shows which can be found on Apple, Amazon, Audible, Spotify, Pandora, iHeart, YouTube, Stitcher, Deezer, plus all other platforms. And also, make sure you check out the partners page. Lots of great partners here at thesportscircus.com. In fact, one of those is our favorite, Al's Number One Italian Beef, 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. 1079 West Taylor Street in Chicago's Little Italy. That's Al's Number One Italian Beef. If you don't know what that is, folks, you're missing out. It is basically the big brother, if you will, of that very mediocre Philly cheesesteak sandwich that they have in Philadelphia that people seem to like a lot. And that is a fried sandwich, flat top grill with a bunch of crap on it, some onions and cheese whiz and whatever the hell they throw on there. Slap it on a bun and give it to you, call it a day. And it gives you indigestion. They probably should give you some of those pink stomach things to go with it, just my opinion. But if you don't know what the Italian beef sandwich is, go to alsbeef.com and read about it. They are the creators of it 117 years ago. Real cooking, real food. And it's not fried and greasy and terrible for you either. So check that out, alsbeef.com. That's alsbeef.com. And tell them the circus sent you. All right, welcome back to everybody. TV and radio, you know who you are. Having a fun show here today with some basketball. And it's not current basketball, whatever, entitled players. Now, this is the grit and grind and what basketball, as I remember it, what basketball was as I remember it, and with the grind and the hard work and the no load management and small payroll and commercial flights and this kind of thing is a very different animal back in the day. We're going to say 60s, 70s, 80s, even part of the 1990s. But I think by the 80s, a lot of it has been commercialized, meaning they'll actually be in the players. They get a chance to fly private, etc., and so forth. But the dynamic was much different than what seems like we have a bunch of entitled players that, well, they only play, I wouldn't say when they want to, but, oh, well, we need a day off and crap like that. And many of these players in today's time, it seems like they just take days off randomly. And what about the fans that spend so much money to go to these games in the NBA? And there is not, we're getting paid more to play this game versus the other game. If there's 82 games, you're getting paid the salary divided by 82 games. Unless I'm missing something. And they're paid, if I'm not mistaken, on a weekly basis anyway. Just like a regular payroll. But I guess my concern is with today's players, they don't play I'm not going to say with the same intensity because I don't know that. I'm not a player. I never played basketball for a living. I'm only going off of what the people I know that have played in the league, they've coached in the league, they've won championships in the league as a player, as a coach. It's a very different situation. And we see the same thing in football. We see the same thing in, well, I would even argue with baseball, some of it. I mean, we're seeing a juiced baseball, in my opinion. And in football, we're seeing the no-fun league where you can't hit anybody like you used to be able to hit them. And in basketball, well, you can't come near anybody because everybody gets and one. It seems like there's no defense being played or very, very little defense. And unfortunately, you have games that they're scoring 250 points in a game between the two. I mean, it's ridiculous. Where scoring seems to be up league-wide. And then what's worse is that you get shots either that are beyond the arc or they're slam dunks. You get very few of those jump shots like you used to see in the day, the running jump shots, the teardrops, the step back jumpers. You don't really see a lot of that mid-range game. And I think the league is really missing it. I think Adam Silver, in my opinion, has really, really done a disservice to the league. I don't believe that his policies are what's best for the league. But then again, I'm not a player. I'm a fan too, like everybody else. Fan stands for fanatic. So for me, I like to get out and support the teams that I like to support. But I am very, very disappointed with what product the NBA is putting out there. And let's go back, 20 years, whatever. How about Phil Jackson? Now, look, Phil Jackson, 6 titles with the Bulls. And he had some, of course, with who? With the Lakers. Couldn't do it with any other team unless it was already a pre-made team. And therein lies a small problem. Phil Jackson, in my opinion, never built anything. So he managed some personalities, so be it. He won a title with the Knicks as a player back in, I think, 1972, if I'm not mistaken. But he didn't do what guys like Jerry West did with winning and building teams. And people can say whatever they want about Jerry West, but Jerry West was truly one of the best. And that's why Jerry West is still the logo, the NBA logo today. And even back to when Phil Jackson said to Jerry, quote, "Get the beep out. I'm not finished here yet," close quote. When Phil Jackson snapped at Jerry West for trying to enter the Lakers locker room. That's right. Yeah, that kind of crap actually exists. So think about when the Lakers have had incredible legends throughout their storied history, even though not all of them always got along. One example showcasing that was Phil Jackson and the late Jerry West. So as Jerry West bluntly described in his 2011 autobiography, West by West, My Charmed, Tormented Life. He and Jackson once shared a fiery moment after a Lakers game. He didn't specify why the game was lost. He explained while some harsh words, profanities and all, were directed at him. So post-game tensions. And the incident in question reportedly occurred during Jerry West's final season as the Lakers GM. It was 1990-2000 NBA season, a time when the franchise from sunny Southern California was emerging as a dynasty. Still, not everything was smooth sailing. And, of course, the post-game moment showed that. So once the buzzer sounded, head coach Phil Jackson, in his role since the summer of 1999, had gathered players and staff in the locker room, known as the Zen Master. Zen Master. He could also show a very different side. Thank you, audience. And it's safe to assume that he did precisely that when addressing that what happened out there. Meanwhile, as Jerry West recounted, he and assistant general manager Mitch Kupchak waited in the hall by the locker room. And the separation was standard procedure and made clear sense. So the behind-the-scenes executive, West and Kupchak, handled the strategic side while those in the locker room, players who battled on the hardwood, and the coaches who guided them from the sidelines, had more hands-on roles. Now, mixing the two groups immediately after the heat of the battle would have been a recipe for tension, so keeping them separated, at least for a while, seemed practical. So, what about the dynamic? So think about the logo, Jerry West. He understood the arrangement, And it was like that always. And since thinking the post-game talk had ended and the players and coaches were now ready to receive him, he tried to enter the locker room. And it was nothing more than an attempt, though. Nothing more. While Jerry West, likely not even a foot inside the door, Jackson, probably using the same sharp tone he had minutes earlier with his players, barked, quote, "Jerry, get the beep out. I'm not finished here yet," close quote. Now, ultimately, it's hard to judge the situation from afar, and likely even up close, reactions range from viewing it as a simple case of bad timing on West's part, which he later claimed, to seeing it as him outright ignoring established boundaries. Interestingly, Jerry said he was, quote, red-faced, close quote, after the incident, immediately backed away and vowed never to enter the locker room like that again. Meanwhile, Phil Jackson could have used a cleaner tone, one without profanities, to make his point. On the other hand, he likely felt the harshness was necessary to assert his authority once and for all. So Phil may have still been keyed up, which is understandable given the game had just ended, making his tongue a bit looser than usual. But what's clear is that the incident exposed the tension between two basketball legends, at least according to Jerry West, a 14-time All-Star, 1969 Finals MVP, who remembered that, of course, and said about it in his book. And the logo wrote it in detail that he and Phil Jackson never formed a close working relationship, describing it as, at best, non-personal, and at worst, very cold. West even suggested that Jackson didn't want him around and showed little personal respect for Jerry West in the first place. Last I checked, Phil Jackson never built anything. Jerry West, being a general manager, president of basketball operations, built a couple of really good teams. I don't recall Phil Jackson doing any of that. Back here in a few minutes on The Circus. Don't go anywhere. Lots more to come.
That's the sound of sizzling, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks from UpperCutChops.com. Their best-in-class filet mignons, New York steaks, and the king of all steaks, the tomahawk and cowboy cut ribeyes are the best in the business. Even their Prime Wagyu burgers will likely be the best you've ever had. Browse the full selection of steaks and chops at UpperCutChops.com from the comfort of your home or on your mobile device. UpperCutChops.com delivers all-natural, dry-aged USDA Prime Wagyu and Angus steaks and chops directly to your door without the hassle of going to the grocery store and fight crowds to pick from a small selection of average at best meats with injected steroids, fillers, and coloring added to look good. Find out what's for dinner at UpperCutChops.com or call 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. 714-948-0100. Or make your selection directly at UpperCutChops.com.
Do you own a timeshare? Well, face the facts. You made a mistake. You made a bad purchase. A timeshare is not an investment. It's a money pit that continues forever. If you use your timeshare, that's great. But if you don't and you want to legally get out of your contract, call my friends right now at the Timeshare Exit Hotline. They're an experienced team of lawyers who help good people like you get out of a timeshare contract that they just don't want. Don't throw away your money on maintenance fees. Use it for things you really want. We can help you end your timeshare contract and stop the money drain immediately. If you're ready to move on with your timeshare, call our team right now.
Cancel your timeshare now with a free call. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. 800-298-3173. That's 800-298-3173.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. They don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.
Hey everybody, this is Brian Urlacher. Welcome back to the Sports Circus.
Welcome back to the Sports Circus. I'm your ringmaster, Sal, live from Las Vegas in the AMP TV studio, AAMP television. Folks, make sure you check out the sportscircus.com store. That's right. There's a store right across the top of the toolbar. There's a tab that says store. Check it out. Lots of great items: hats, hoodies, t-shirts, coats, pants, travel mugs, coffee mugs, pillows, mouse pads, you name it. They're all there with the Clever Sports Circus logo on it. And of course, on all the fabric items, it is embroidered, and all the other items, it is silkscreen. Really good stuff, American-made products. Yes, a shameless plug for the Sports Circus. We have to pay bills too, just like you. All right, welcome back to everybody listening in on our CBS, NBC, and Fox Sports Independence from coast to coast as well. See if I can jumble that up a little bit, just because I can. Hey, listen, folks, it's live. Anything could happen. And welcome back to everybody on TV, everybody watching on TV, everybody streaming on Chicago Food Favorites. Thanks for joining us over there as well. That's Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. A fun group. Talk about your favorite foods, your favorite restaurants, your favorite recipes. Make some friends. Have some fun. Chicago Food Favorites on Facebook. And don't spam that group, whatever you do. I'm the administrator. I created the group. It's for fun. It's free. It's just something to do. And guess what, folks? If you spam it, I will get rid of you in a second. So don't spam it, if you know what I mean. All right, back here with basketball. And it's more, look, it's not day-to-day basketball, whatever. There's some good stories. And then we talked a little bit about what happened in yesteryear. How about this? How about in current basketball? How about Kevin Durant? I kind of like this one. Kevin Durant says to Basketball Network on why he believes that some players put on such elaborate pregame outfits. And he says, quote, so they're not seen as somebody with weaknesses or insecurities, close quote. What in the world? Since when is clothing going to determine whether somebody is seen with a weakness or not? I will never know this one. This is crazy. But think about this. Oh boy. They say the NBA has come a long way since its inception in 1946. Yes, I would agree. But from the way the game is being played today, yes, to the incredible attention and money players are making, which is lunacy in my opinion. Show me the money! And I'll show you somebody that dresses a particular way to get some attention. Anyway, it's clear that the league has evolved into, they say, that's what they say, a global powerhouse. That's Basketball Network. Me personally, I say it has turned into exactly what basketball was not intended to be. Anyway, one of the most significant changes in recent years is the increased attention that players are receiving and are paying to their appearance. Oh, yeah, because the appearance is kind of a big deal now. And of course, that's before heading to the games. So while players like Clyde Frazier, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson always looked fly, they say, with their dapper suits and flashy accessories, today's players have taken things to a whole new level. I hate these catchphrases. Anyway, this is what they say. So from reigning league MVP, from Shai to Kyle to Russell. Now, these are not household names, in case you're wondering. No, Russell Westbrook, Kyle Kuzma, etc., etc. NBA players frequently use their arena's bowels or hallways to the locker rooms as their personal runway. So look at me, look at me, look at me. It's like celebrating after a score, celebrating after whether it's a home run, celebrating whether it's a touchdown or you made a shot on the court or whatever the hell it is, right? Look at me, look at me. So they continually push the boundaries of fashion, allegedly, showcasing unique and bold outfits that reflect their individual styles. Okay, so what they're saying is never mind the team, just look at me instead. I mean, give me a damn break. And so even on one of these social media postings on X, the almost superstar, not Shai, arrives in a fashion to Game 6 of the NBA Finals. Oh, yeah, by the way, bro, you lost. It doesn't matter. So, okay, look at me. Look at me before the game. And, of course, an outlier to this fashion movement is all-time great Kevin Durant. Is he an all-time great? I don't know about that. That's what they say at this particular website. Nonetheless, they say a hooper of the purest order. He prefers to walk into games wearing team-issued hoodies and sweats, letting his on-court play do the talking. Well, you know what? I kind of like that idea. That's good stuff. You don't need to bring all this extra attention to yourself. It just gets tiring. So I guess he says comfort over style, while KD is more than capable of dressing to the nines. When the occasion calls for it, he strongly feels that basketball games aren't the right place for fashion statements. He believes that the focus should be solely on the game, and anything else that is just added stress if you bring it. And he says, quote, I sometimes stress about what I'm going to wear for the walk-in, and I can't worry about it, close quote. So why are these people doing this? What is the deal with this? Why do they have to bring this added or needless attention to themselves? I don't get it. In fact, they say Kevin Durant is often seen in jeans, a hoodie, or a sweater, or sneakers, and an ensemble that really suits his preference for comfort over style. And this is in direct contrast to players like Westbrook, who are known for their bold and daring fashion choices on the court. And Kevin Durant explained, quote, my personal style is simple and cozy, definitely comfortable. I like to keep it real simple and basic, you know? I'm not a guy who would be at Fashion Week, close quote. Now, other players, of course, he says, try to put on a front. And so KD surmised that while other NBA athletes put on an elaborate outfit to express their individuality, some do so to try to hide their insecurities or weakness on the court. In fact, he says, quote, I feel as if a lot of basketball players, celebrities, put on their front that they're bigger and stronger and different, that they're superheroes, so they're not seen as somebody with weakness or insecurities, close quote. That's a pretty good point. Now, as someone who has played 17 seasons in a league, Durant has unique insight into how the minds of the NBA players work, so he might actually be onto something here. And he explained that, though from his point of view, basketball is the first and only thing, and everything else, including fashion statements, is unnecessary or frivolous. In fact, he says, quote, I'm not a celebrity hooper. I don't care about money and fame. I don't need everything to revolve around me. I like to play basketball. I like to talk basketball. I like to debate basketball, close quote. That's a guy with his head screwed on right, as I see it. Now, Kevin Durant has proven time and time again that the fame and money he receives mean little to him. All he cares about is playing at a high level and winning championships, something he hopes to do with the Rockets. And we'll see what happens there. I don't really know if that's going to happen, but you have to think about players doing everything they can to demonstrate they have everything possible. They got money. They've got fame because what are they doing? They're buying fame because the teams are buying fame with them because these guys can play. It's a vicious circle. And who loses eventually with all of this? I'll tell you who loses with it. The fans lose because the fans have to pay more money for the bigger salaries, the ticket prices, the parking. And we've talked about this several times. What does it take for a family of four to go to an NBA game? It's somewhere around $1,500. And that's with tickets, with parking, with concession, transportation, whatever. Everything that's included, right? Then you have the fan experience. What if they want an autograph? They got to pay for that. What if they want, I don't know, something like food? Oh, that's right. They have to eat because they won't eat before the game. They have to eat at the game. I mean, look, I recently went to a couple of events, and I'm getting these giant pretzels, these regular Bavarian big pretzels, for $9 each. And I know damn well I could buy them in the grocery store for $1 a piece. And frankly, these are an enormous ripoff. I saw a bottle of water for $8 at an event I went to yesterday. $8 for a bottle of tap water. Talk about a ripoff. Memorabilia t-shirts, right? Merch going for $50, $65 for a cheap-ass t-shirt with a name of a rock and roll band on it. I don't care whether it's that or a rapper or whatever the hell it is. Country star, doesn't matter. It's all the same thing. Garbage in, garbage out. And ultimately, what are we talking about here? We're talking about the bilking of customers, left, right, and center. And now we have to say, all right, maybe they want to watch their basketball teams on air. Maybe they want to see their games live or something to that effect. I don't know. Maybe what they're after is, they want to see these people live play the game. Then they can't see them. And if they do, it's going to cost them $1,500 for the family. It just doesn't make sense. Maybe they want to watch them on TV. They have to subscribe to a special package on television and pay for that as well. It's one thing after another after another. It is unbelievable how the audience and the general public is just getting ripped off. And the only way the public could fight back is to not watch, don't buy the products of those sponsors, because then the advertising gets pulled and then there's less money. And then when the TV contracts go down, well, everything goes down because people aren't buying their products, their merchandise, their services, whatever the hell it is. It's just one ripoff after another after another. And at some point, there needs to be some balancing act here to the public, because without the public, those big contracts don't exist, because the TV contracts don't exist in the first place. The owners can't afford to pay those kinds of salaries. And let's face it, they can't charge all that extra money for $5, $8, $10 for a hot dog that costs a quarter. That's right, a soda that would cost in a cup maybe 50 cents for them out the door total for the cup and the drink included. They're charging $10 for that. The multiple is 10 plus on everything. It's insane. So you see, folks, there's a method to the madness to all of this. When we talk about the older players, what they had to endure and the little money that they got compared to what's going on today and all this extra blowing of the money and 55 gold chains on Mr. T starter kit seemed like that all these players had. They're wearing diamonds around their necks and their earrings. That guy over in Minnesota, the football player from Minnesota, what does he wear? He wears, I don't know, 10 carats of diamonds around his neck. I have no idea. All I know is the whole thing is lunacy, in my opinion. So at some point, the bleeding has to stop. And I like these older basketball stories and the older players because at least they give a perspective of what things could be, what they should be, and how they were, and how people have only gone backwards since the days of wholesome sports. All right, that's going to do it for today. I'm your Ringmaster Sal. We'll see you in 23 hours right here on your favorite station. Until then, so long, everyone.
Owning great property is almost impossible these days. At least, that's what people keep saying. they don't know about National Premier Properties. Do you have $350 or a credit card? You can own a great piece of property in a resort community. National Premier Properties has over 51 years of experience helping people just like you purchase amazing properties across the U.S. and in Mexico, Canada, the Bahamas. It takes less than 5 minutes to turn your dream into reality. Visit nationalpremierproperties.com and make it happen now.
Why pay retail for your next car? Just visit beepinautos.com to find your new-to-you car or truck. They find cars for people, even when cars are hard to find. So just go to beepinautos.com and click on Find Me a Car, and they find your perfect car on the wholesale market. Beepinautos.com. They're a car concierge. Beepinautos.com. B-E-E-P-I-N autos.com. Beepinautos.com. Now you have a friend in the car business when you need it most. Trusted since 2013. Just click Find Me a Car at beepinautos.com.